What's good, everybody? Champ is back. Execution number 2 for today. This one is Anthony, looks like Anthony Hopkins, but I think his name is Anthony Hines. And based off the intro on this one, this just looks like your average run-of-the-mill murder or plot twists kind of thing. The intro when I saw it was kind of weird. This could literally be anything, so you know what? I'm just gonna let you guys watch this along with me, so that way you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. As usual, this is brought to you by Final Verdict. Their channel and the original video will also be in the description down below, just in case you want to watch it without my commentary or anything. Number 2 out of 3 today. Let's pop it
On
off.
August 13th, 2020,
Let's pop it off is what I said. And look at this guy. I know we're only 1 second in, but doesn't he look like Anthony Hopkins? Well, let's see what he does.
after spending 40 years on death row, Anthony Darrell Hines was executed in Tennessee. But the reason he ended up there started at a bus station. A woman noticed the knife hidden under his shirt and told him he couldn't bring it. Anthony told her, "I never go anywhere naked. I always have my blade." 2 days later, a motel maid was stabbed to death. This is what happened.
See what I mean? Like, that's the intro. All right. I don't know anything from this point on, so if this offends you, don't at me.
On March 1st, 1985, Anthony boarded a
I was half a year old.
What happened? On March 1st, 1985, Anthony boarded a bus in Raleigh, North Carolina, heading to Bowling Green, Kentucky. He was 24 years old and had been in and out of jail since the age of 15. He already had a felony conviction for
Seems like a pattern. Don't you think? Seems like a pattern.
out of jail since the age of 15. He already had a felony conviction for assault in the first degree, in which he had caused serious physical harm to another person. A few weeks earlier, Anthony had shown up at his girlfriend Melanie Chandler's house in North Carolina with almost nothing. They went to a party where he got into an altercation and accidentally struck Melanie in the eye.
Okay.
Her mother, Virginia, called the police and forced him to leave. That same night, he appeared at Melanie's window and she let him in. He spent a week hiding in her closet before Virginia found him and put him on a bus herself. She handed him $20 in spending money. That was all the money he had. The knife he carried was a 6-inch fixed-blade survival knife with one end serrated. Sometime in the early morning hours of March 3rd, Anthony checked into the Seabon Motel off Interstate 40 in Kingston Springs, Tennessee.
I have no idea where that is.
He was wearing an Army fatigue jacket, fatigue pants, and boots, and he was assigned Room 9. Working at the motel that day was a maid named Catherine Jean Jenkins, but everyone called her Kathy. She
Hi,
was
Kathy.
54 years old. Around 9:30 that morning, the motel manager left Kathy in charge of the front desk and handed her a Cheatham County State Bank bag containing $100 in small bills to make change for departing guests.
Made up money? Is that a $0 bill?
3 rooms still hadn't checked out, and Room 9 was one of them. Around the same time, a witness saw Anthony walking from his room toward a drink machine.
Stop. What
He
is
told the
this?
manager he wasn't ready to check out yet and went back to Room 9. And then sometime between 1 o'clock and 1:30 that afternoon, Kathy's body was found. She was wrapped in a bloody bedsheet inside Room 21, one of the rooms she had been cleaning. Her outer clothing had been pulled up to her chest. Her underwear had been cut or torn into 2 pieces and left in a separate part of the room. And under the band of her watch, someone had tucked a $20 bill. The autopsy revealed the
What?
full extent of what had been done to her. 4 deep stab wounds to the chest, ranging from 2.5 to more than 6 inches deep, inflicted with something like a butcher knife or a hunting knife.
Yeah, the
There
same
were
knife that
additional
the guy
cuts to the
had.
neck and collarbone, and one wound that the medical examiner described in clinical detail. A knife had been driven through the upper portion of her vagina, penetrating into the abdominal cavity. That wound occurred at or around the time of death.
Y'all should have said that at the beginning.
No male DNA or any evidence of ejaculation was found.
So he just stabbed her and walked away. Why? Why do all of this stuff then?
Forensic expert who later reviewed the case testified that this type of wound was a very specific expression of power of a female victim and an indicator of hatred toward women. The pathologist testified that after the lethal wounds were inflicted, Catherine would have remained conscious for 4 to 6 minutes, and she had defensive wounds on her hands and arms. She fought. The bank bag she had been given that morning was found in the room with her, empty and covered in blood.
It was a robbery.
Her car keys, her wallet, and her silver 1980 Volvo were all gone. It was Kathy's habit to always lock her car and keep her keys and wallet on her while she worked. But none of that mattered. Whoever did this had taken everything. Around 12:40 that afternoon, a motel employee saw Kathy's Volvo pulling out of the driveway, driven by a man. The employee tried to follow, but the car sped away toward Nashville.
Oh, he knew he was behind him.
The car didn't make it far. It broke down a few miles past Gallatin on Interstate 65, heading toward Bowling Green. Anthony was standing beside it when a group of young travelers pulled over to help. They couldn't get it running, so they offered him a ride the rest of the way to Bowling Green.
Don't do it. He's gonna murder you guys. Don't do it. Do not do it.
During the drive, they noticed dried blood on the shoulder of his shirt. He was also carrying a folded-up jacket and seemed nervous. He kept contradicting himself. He talked a lot, and at one point he told them he had bought the car from an old lady for $300 or $400. When Anthony reached his sister's house in Bowling Green,
$300 or $400? How much is $300, $400 in 1985 worth today? Today that would be worth $131.09 all the way up to $1,241.46. So that's how much it's cost.
the story changed again. He told her he had tried to pay for another night at a motel, and the motel operator attacked him. He demonstrated for her
What?
physically how he had stabbed the man. He told her he had a large sum of money. He told her husband he had earned about $7,000 working as a mechanic in North Carolina. And despite not being able to afford his own bus ticket just a few days earlier, Anthony went out and bought a barbecue grill. It was a belated birthday present.
Why? You don't even have a house or an apartment or anything. You stay in hotels and travel around. Why would you randomly buy a grill? Are you dumb? Where are you going to put this? Why? This is probably one of the most bizarre cases I've ever heard. This is dumb. Okay, yeah. Grill up some burgers, yeah.
For his sister. Her birthday had been
sister.
February 4th. Just belated birthday present. Anthony went out and bought a barbecue grill. It was a belated birthday present for his sister.
Okay, that's understandable. But still, where are you going to put it? You don't even have a residence.
Her birthday had been February 4th, just a few weeks earlier. His family also noticed he had a set of car keys on a distinctive keychain. Anthony explained that a man who had given him a ride had tried to rob him, so he had grabbed the steering wheel, run the car off the road, and taken the keys. A different story for every person who asked. And when law enforcement caught up with him, Anthony volunteered something before anyone even started asking questions. He said he had taken the woman's car, but he hadn't killed the woman.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did.
The arresting officer testified that nobody had told Anthony a woman had been killed, which meant he already knew. Later, when a Tennessee Bureau of Investigation agent pressed him to tell the truth, Anthony made an offer. He said if the officer could guarantee him the death penalty, he would confess to the whole thing and tell them everything they wanted to know.
Normally people do that for like the lightest level of consequence. They don't they don't want to face the music for what they did, not the absolute worst. But hey, it solves a crime, I guess.
And the physical evidence backed up what investigators already suspected. Kathy's wallet was found wrapped in a thermal shirt near her abandoned car. The key to Room 9 turned up at a campsite near Cave City, Kentucky, where Anthony had been staying. And inside Room 9 itself, investigators found stab marks gouged into the wall, the kind made by someone driving a knife into the surface, over and over.
Why into the walls? Were you stabbing her through the wall? Like the blade was going through her and then into the wall? Because you sure as hell ain't stabbing her through the wall. Like, I don't know.
When shown photographs of those marks, Anthony identified them himself. He called them knife marks. In 1986, a Cheatham County jury heard all of it. The hunting knife Anthony refused to travel without, the dried blood on his shirt, the stolen car, and stolen money, the matching stab marks on the motel room wall, every version of the story he told along the way, and his offer to confess in exchange for a guaranteed death sentence. But there was one witness whose testimony stood out, a man named Kenneth Jones. He told the jury he had discovered Kathy's body, and according to Kenneth, he had stopped by the motel because he knew the owners, found no one in the office, and eventually let himself into room 21 to use the bathroom. That's when he found her.
That's when he found her.
Anthony.
Wow. Because if that didn't happen, who knows how long it would take before she was found. That's crazy.
His defense attorney went after that story. He stressed how strange and convenient it sounded, told the jury that Kenneth was fooling around at that motel that Sunday afternoon, and pointed out that Kenneth seemed nervous. The timeline didn't match up neatly with what first responders reported either. But none of it worked. The jury found Anthony guilty of first-degree felony murder and sentenced him to death.
It's like the most senseless, random, stupid thing I've ever, this is the dumbest one I've heard by far. The dumbest. You threw your life away over this.
Years later, during post-conviction proceedings, the full truth about Kenneth Jones came out. He hadn't been at the motel by chance, and he hadn't been alone. He was having an affair, meeting a woman there nearly every Sunday for at least 2 years.
That's why he was there. So what's that got to do with the person that worked there?
The motel staff knew him well, and on the day of the murder, he and his companion arrived, found no one to greet them, waited at a nearby restaurant, grew impatient, and helped themselves to a room key. His companion confirmed she had watched through the curtains as Kenneth walked into the room and quickly came back out. And then came the detail that Anthony's appeals would center on for decades.
Okay.
His own trial attorney had known about the affair from the start. He knew Kenneth wasn't there by accident, but he chose not to pursue it aggressively because he wanted to spare Kenneth the embarrassment.
Just do it. We need to know why anyway.
Anthony argued that amounted to ineffective counsel, but the Tennessee courts disagreed. They called the theory that his lawyer should have accused Kenneth Jones of the murder far-fetched and pointed to the mountain of evidence against Anthony. The case went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. Every appeal, every argument left his conviction standing. Anthony Darrell Hines spent more than 4 decades on Tennessee's death row at Riverbend Maximum Security Institution.
4 decades.
In December 2025,
And he grew to look into Anthony Hopkins. He turned into him.
he suffered an ischemic stroke. Prison staff called for an ambulance, but it was turned away. The prison decided it could handle the CT scan internally. It took them 3 weeks to carry it out. The scan confirmed the stroke, but Anthony was denied prescribed follow-up medication. And in January 2026, he had a second stroke, collapsed, and hit his head.
Get him some medical attention, yo!
After that, Anthony was confined to the prison infirmary. He could no longer walk, he couldn't move his left arm, hand, or leg, and he was blind in his left eye. He struggled to speak, chew, or swallow, and was in constant pain. According to a Tennessee Department of...
Well, now you're just putting him into permanent sleep just to help him out. Maybe, I don't know.
Correction report. While on death row, Anthony had told prison security personnel that he hated women.
You don't say. You only stabbed one to death for, like, no reason.
And yet his attorneys petitioned Governor Bill Lee for clemency, calling the execution a grotesque spectacle that would serve no meaningful penological purpose. They cited his medical condition and the state's botched attempt to execute Tony Carruthers just months earlier, in which the physician struggled for...
I remember that case, yeah. I started out going, botched?
For over 90 minutes to establish intravenous access before the execution was abandoned entirely. But the governor did not grant clemency. His execution was scheduled for August 13, 2026. 14 days before the execution, prison staff wheeled Anthony's hospital bed out of the infirmary and down the corridor to one of 4 cells directly adjacent to the execution chamber at Riverbend. He had been living in that bed for 8 months. He couldn't walk. His left arm and hand were clenched in a permanent fist, the muscles locked from atrophy. He was blind in his left eye. And now the bed he couldn't leave was parked 15 feet from the room where he was going to die.
Here's the thing, like, a lot of people would bitch that it takes them 4 decades to get executed like this, like the way it's supposed to, right? And then they'll get all upset about that because, you know, taxpayer money and all these kinds of things. But like, this guy is like going through like the worst possible thing that you could go through before you actually die. So he's suffering big time right now. This is like getting tortured to death before you die.
They call it Death Watch. 24 hours a day, a correctional officer sat outside his cell on a 12-hour shift, watching everything.
Imagine having that job. Imagine having a job where you just sit there and you just sit here like this. For 12 straight hours. Like, are you allowed to read a book? Are you allowed to go on your phone? Are you allowed to do anything like that? Are you allowed to eat? Are you allowed to go to the bathroom? You can't use his bathroom. That's his. I don't know.
He was allowed legal and religious materials, a pencil, paper, and books.
That's it?
But nothing else. When he slept, someone watched. When he ate, someone watched. When he used the bathroom, someone watched. For 14 days straight. Then, on the evening of August 12th, his last meal was delivered to his cell.
Here we go.
Under Tennessee's protocol, it had to be eaten by midnight. The state gives death row inmates a budget of $20 for their final meal. $20.
I did not know that.
The same amount Virginia Chandler handed him when she put him on a bus 41 years earlier. The same amount that was found tucked under Katherine Jenkins' watchband the afternoon she was killed.
I don't get that.
And Anthony used every dollar of it. He ordered fried chicken, mashed potatoes and gravy, coleslaw, corn, fries, biscuits, a chicken sandwich, chocolate chip cake, and a sweet tea. On the morning of August 13th, Anthony was woken at 5:30 a.m. When the
I was up at this time.
time came, he would be lifted from his hospital bed by prison staff and strapped to the execution gurney.
Actually, I lied. I got up before my alarm went off. My alarm goes off at 6 a.m. I got up at like 1:45. It counts.
When the curtain opened at 10:30, Anthony was already on the gurney. His son was sitting in the witness chamber. A female spiritual advisor stood beside him, leaning close, speaking softly. She had been talking to him since before the curtains opened. Anthony's speech was impaired from the strokes, and he struggled to form words. When he was asked if he had a final statement, Anthony said, "Not right now, thank you."
Oh, he can't speak really, so how could he... Yeah, how can he have any final words?
But a moment later, before the injection began, he said, "Tell my son I love him."
Oh,
The spiritual advisor began reciting the Lord's Prayer. She kept her hand on him and did not stop speaking. At one point, Anthony got confused about what was happening and asked, "How much time do I have?" At 10:32, the drug began to take effect. 3 loud, labored breaths, then more, then silence. By 10:35, there was no breathing and no movement. The spiritual advisor stayed beside him. She held the left side of his face, kissed him on his face, and held his hand. She said, "You're a beautiful child of God." She prayed for Anthony, and then she prayed for the Jenkins family. Meanwhile, his skin turned purple-gray. His mouth was slightly open.
now, this part I don't
At
care about, by the way.
10:42, the curtains closed.
I don't need descriptions on how he's wheezing to death, and by the way, so
And at 10:43, he was pronounced dead.
we were in the middle of rust proofing, by the way.
Anthony Darrell Hines was 66 years old. He had been on death row for more than 40 years. And Anthony Hines wasn't the only man America put to death on August 13th. He was one of 3.
We covered 1, we covered 2, soon to be 3. And if 3 gets released tomorrow, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. These guys work hard.
3 men, 3 different states.
So we covered you, and you're also on Facebook now, by the way. And we covered Anthony Hopkins over here. Now we got to cover this guy, and that's either tonight or tomorrow morning. Well, maybe not tomorrow morning, unless it gets released at like 3 a.m. or something. I'll get ready for work and do it at the same time, or something crazy. I'll have fun with it, and if not, it'll be after work. So
All executed in a single day.
that's
And that hadn't happened in 16 years, not since 2010. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next one.
awesome sauce. Awesome sauce. That one was so random and so crazy and messed up. Wow. And I am so tired because today was a nightmare at work. Well, not really a nightmare, but work it's been busy. Oh, 2 videos right here, and we will see you whenever the third one drops. I am hyped.